So for this one, I'm just going to quickly discuss this story that was going around. Well, it started a couple of weeks ago with Aaron Taylor Johnson and also Henry Cavill being rumoured for being up for the role of James Bond in the 26th Bond movie in this franchise. Before I get into that, I'm going to get into just talking about Christmas. Hope you all had a really good one. As you can see, I got quite a few James Bond related gifts this year. Some quite interesting ones, to be honest. I got a lot of them from the official 007 store. You can have a closer look at some of the things here. These chocolates, I broke into the truffles. They were very nice. I haven't actually opened this one yet, but it ranged from quite a few things that I got. These graphic novels as well. Not actually read these yet, these adaptations of first couple of Ian Fleming books. I also got this cocktail recipe book as well, which seems interesting. I can't tell if it's official or not, but it's got some interesting character-based cocktails. So I'm certainly going to put that to good use. I've got this really nice fragrance as well by Floris. It's the number 007. There's plenty of these fragrances out there, but this one comes in this gift-wrapped Christmas cracker type thing. You get a 10ml sample. You can get a 100ml bottle of this as well. And to be honest, I'm quite tempted because it is very nice. There's a logic to the way that this is put together. Some of the scents that are in there kind of based on certain character traits and stories from James Bond and locations and so on. Also got this. Been wanting to have this for a while. This Bollinger. Very expensive. We drank this on Christmas Eve. I've kept the bottle and it's going to stay in my collection on my shelf. Happy memories for certain, but also very nice as a 007 collector. Got a few other little things, some random stuff. Top trumps 007, okay. Got this Aston Martin DB5. I got the larger one a few years ago. I talked about that on the channel. Some other random items as well, like this, and I wasn't needing a new flask, to be honest. Never considered getting a 007 one. Maybe I could put some Blackwell 007 rum in there. This is very interesting as well. I believe the guy that owns the company owns GoldenEye in Jamaica, where Ian Fleming wrote books or something. It's definitely relevant, and Blackwell's does appear in some of the movies as well. But anyway, let's rein this in. So today, as I say, I'm going to be talking about this rumour that Aaron Taylor Johnson and also, not at the same time obviously, Henry Cavill are up for playing James Bond. We'll see about that. I'm here today to talk about this with my co-reviewer, The Call.
It's not really news, it's just something that was, you'll have heard about this over the last few weeks. I wanted to leave a little while because things were developing all the time. And I think things have kind of settled enough now for us to be able to kind of realistically talk about it. And that's the Bond casting thing, because they've been talking about, I say they, like the media and social media and all these others, been talking about Henry Cavill and Aaron Taylor Johnson playing. So we've got the core, hence the ears. That's his calling card. In fact, you could be the next Bond. You could just go, and who are you? And you just go, years.
Core. G-core.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, there's like a couple of different stories. There was some like rumours going around. Basically, I don't know how much you caught of this. I don't know if like some of the channels you follow have been talking about this, but Aaron Taylor Johnson, quite famous for being in films like was it Kick-Ass? I've not seen that, but I know.
I've seen Kick-Ass. I don't particularly. You know me. I'm a name-forgetting motherfucker.
Yeah, well, he was in the first Godzilla film, not like the first ever, obviously. He'd be quite old if he was in that.
I was going to say, like, fucking hell, I thought Roger Moore was a bit aged.
Yeah, no, he was in the 2014 Godzilla film. He was like the main guy in that. He's been in other stuff. He was Quicksilver in Age of Ultron, Avengers Age of Ultron, if you remember. He was in Tenet as well, a Christopher Nolan film. But yeah, basically, there were rumours going about that he's filmed a gun barrel sequence as kind of like promotional footage. For
everybody's filmed a gun barrel sequence. Even Topher and Buff did one.
Yeah, but that went wrong. That went in Buff's face. So
this less one, of a gun barrel and more of a rubber Johnny.
Yeah, but this one was is apparently something that was going to be rocked out in May time. not May, sorry, March time next year or something. And there's also rumours it was going to be tied in with promotion of like an Omega watch or something. And there's pictures of him wearing an Omega watch. It's pretty thin. I mean, you can put a case together as to like why it's something to talk about, but I personally think it kind of takes me back in 2005 when the rumours were that Clive Owen was going to be James Bond, and they would take anything. I remember somebody interviewed him at like a press event, and they were saying about, do you want to talk about the rumours that you've been cast as James Bond? This was just before Daniel Craig was announced. So it was like mid 2005. And he said something like, "Oh well, it looks like I'm going to be very busy for quite a while." And they were like, "Oh, here we go, he's Bond." It didn't mean that at all. It could have just meant, I evidently just meant like, I'm going to be busy for a little while. I'm probably not going to be James Bond. You know what I mean? But he was kind of being a bit coy about it, maybe. And
why wouldn't he be? Because it's good publicity for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he kind of said it with a smile on his face as well, and he wouldn't say anything. He kind of just repeated it. They kind of said, "Can you elaborate?" And he was just like, "No, I'm just going to be very busy for a little while." And people ran with it. And even to me, I thought, "Shit, it could actually be like, true." It wasn't true. So I don't think he was even close to being like in the running. It was between Daniel Craig, Henry Cavill, and maybe one or two others. So you can always put a case together at the time, but the test of time doesn't usually look well on these things. You look back and you think, "Wow, that was really really suckered by a non-story there." But because everybody was talking about it, the Aaron Taylor Johnson with the Rolex, the Omega watch, and the rumors and so on. Apparently, and I think he has been to some events that the Barbara Broccoli, Michael G. Wilson's company have organised some events and stuff. They might have interviewed him. I believe they have spoke, but that's not uncommon. They speak to so many actors, so I don't think it's necessarily true. Not saying it wouldn't be. I can picture him being the kind of guy they would go with, to be honest. But I don't think that this is really anything solid. I think we really need something a bit more solid than that. I don't know if you picked up on any of that story. It was a couple of weeks ago now.
Yeah, not really. I don't particularly follow Bond news that closely.
Yeah, it's more my thing on this channel. But then there was another thing came as well. Obviously, you are aware of this with Henry Cavill, with DC, with everything that happened there. Obviously, he got dropped. He was announced. He was told to announce himself as coming back as Superman, wasn't he?
Yeah, like I say, it's a bit shit how they've treated the actor himself. Like, yep, announce yourself. Yeah, we've changed our minds, but at the same time, it's like, honestly, DC needs a reboot. Like,
yeah,
it's a shame. I would have liked to see him actually get to play the character like properly because I like the actor, but at the same point, yeah, getting rid of all the actors and starting fresh is probably a good idea.
yeah. And obviously, Henry Cavill was close. He came close to being Bond back in 2005 when the casting for 2006 Casino Royale was going through. That's how I first heard of his name as an actor. It was completely unknown to me, but it was between him and Daniel Craig, and then Daniel Craig got it. But his name was coming about even before the casting of that. And then obviously went on to play Superman, and he's been in other things as well, like The Witcher. But
yeah.
that was a big story with Superman anyway, and obviously there were discussions about whether or not he can now be James Bond, because if he's been kind of released from being Superman, and I think the Witcher thing isn't happening anymore either.
Well, the Witch thing definitely wasn't happening because he's like specifically like quit.
Yeah,
like he's doing season 3 probably because he got given a boatload of money and that's it. Like he's not coming back for anything else. It's not a case of like they've sacked him; he sacked himself. He was like, "I ain't doing it no more."
Yeah. So that's something that people have been saying, he's now going to be free to be James Bond. I think the problem with Henry Cavill now is his age. I mean, he's about our age, so he's like, he's, I don't know if he's quite turned 40 yet, but he's getting there anyway. And obviously, that's a fine age to play Bond, but they're looking for somebody who, going forward, is going to be able to carry the franchise for 10, 15, maybe 20 years. I think they would hope to do that. And as good, I'm sure, as he would be at any of those ages, they do want somebody younger that's going to have that kind of appeal to like younger audiences as well. And also the fact that he's recognised too much as Superman, that's another problem. Whereas Aaron Taylor Johnson is a lot less known, and he's younger as well. So it's kind of a difficult one, really. I mean, I'm not saying it's a toss-up between those two, but those are names that are being discussed at the moment, hence the point of this video. This isn't a news video. This story's been out there for a couple of weeks at least, since these names really started getting talked about again. People were talking about Tom Hardy as well, obviously, a few years ago. I kind of debunked that one for similar reasons.
They're always talking about Tom Hardy for some bizarre reason. I mean, not anything against Tom Hardy. It's just like, whenever there's anything going on, it's like, could Tom Hardy be in it? Like, again?
Yeah, it's tricky as well because he's too well identifiable as well. I don't think there's any one role that he's identified with, like Henry Cavill is with Superman. But I think he's one of the few like movie stars, not just an actor like we have in a lot of films nowadays. He's a full-blown movie star. People will go to the cinema to see the latest Tom Hardy movie. Whereas a lot of these other actors, even though they're in like big iconic roles, even people like Robert Downey Jr. as well, people were evidently going to see. They were a fan of Tony Stark, Iron Man. They weren't a fan of Robert Downey Jr. as much. I don't think anyone.
Yeah, because he had a couple of like pretty big flops, didn't he? When it was trying to sell it on like him on his own.
Yeah, whereas I think Tom Hardy's got a bit more selling power, but maybe a bit too much for James Bond. I mean, regardless of like, would he be good in the film? I just think in terms of like the carrying the franchise or whatever and being recognised as being Bond first and foremost, or just entirely, Whereas it'd always be like it's a Tom Hardy movie, so even if you're not a Bond fan, come and watch it because Tom Hardy and he's cool. Maybe that is a good idea to put him in the film for that reason. But I think something like Aaron Taylor Johnson is less identifiable. When I saw him in Tenet, I'd seen him in a few other films, but I was a bit like you. I was kind of like, where do I know him from? I'd seen him in other stuff, but I couldn't remember that I'd seen him in Godzilla and Age of Ultron. But yeah, it's been an interesting story anyway. I just think that it's something that's been discussed quite a bit. And I haven't done a Bond 26 video for a while, so also it's an excuse to do another video for the end of the year anyway. So
yes,
I'll wrap that part of it up. But finally, we'll just say, obviously, it's currently 28. What day are we on today? 28th of December. So have you had a good Christmas call?
yes.
Yeah, well, we'll see what's coming next year. You finally got to watch Top Gun Maverick as well. We're just saying, how did you think? How did you?
Some liked it.
Yeah, so kind of ties in with this conversation actually, because obviously Tom Cruise, he's a movie star. He's not just an actor in films,
Yes.
So. And I think that Top Gun Maverick was very well loved for that reason. It was bigger than the Top Gun franchise because it wasn't really something that I ever pictured as being a franchise. It was like an okay film from the 80s that was just quite iconic in its own right, kind of thing. Whereas the film itself was okay. I thought Top Gun Maverick was really good.
It's one of those things like Cobra Kai and stuff. It's like, given all the like shitty like sequel reboot and all this the shit they're trying to do, ironically it's the ones you think that's a stupid idea. Why the fuck would we want another Karate Kid? Well, shit, Cobra Kai is actually really good apparently. Like,
Yeah.
do we actually want another Maverick film? Like, what the hell? That wasn't really like sequel material. It was, very self-contained. Was that film?
Yeah. Well, sometimes
Like, yeah, Top
franchises.
Gun Maverick. I actually like it better than the original film, to be honest.
I'd agree. Sometimes these franchises they can kind of come back from the dead, or they can kind of surprise you in that they've got something to offer. Obviously, Pierce Brosnan's James Bond debut back in '95 of GoldenEye was a testament to that, because Cold War was over. A lot of people were saying it didn't have any relevance. When you look at it at face value, but I think it is possible to bring something new to it, to reinvent things a little bit without going too far away. I think they try to reinvent things in a woke way nowadays. I'll go down that rabbit hole. I've talked about it before in terms of Bond.
Yeah, so I'm honestly just hoping Bond stays gone for a couple more years until we're out of this stupidity.
Yeah.
Because I'm just absolutely sick of it at this point, and ironically, I think a lot of other people are as well. It's like I'm not taking like a stance against woke, anti-woke, or anything like that. I'm just tired of shit movies that don't have anything like worth going to
Yeah.
see in them. Like not even getting into like it seems sexual. Blah, blah, blah. It's like I don't care. You got nothing to fucking say. Like trying
Yeah.
to wave that flag is not going to change the fact that it's a shit film.
Well, that's what we saw with Top Gun Maverick, because a lot of people are saying it's anti-woke, and it's like it's not at all. It's just not woke, and that's all we want.
Yeah, it's just a normal film.
Yeah, I don't need to watch a movie that talks about, the villains can't answer the question, what is a woman? I mean, we've seen a documentary, that's what that's about, a good documentary, but I don't want to see like a Hollywood movie where that's the subject. I want escapism. So really, it's good enough. In fact, it's perfectly fine just not being woke. You don't have to be anti-woke. So films like Top Gun Maverick were being falsely labelled as being anti-woke, and it's like, is it hell? That's total
Almost just
bullshit.
like Rambo that was kind of getting like, oh, it's put Trump propaganda. It's like it really isn't. Like, what
That
the
film
hell?
was written long before. That film, I mean, even on this channel back in 2014, like years before Trump became the president, we got footage from Paul Cage, if you remember, where he was at a speaking event that Stallone was at, and he was talking about the plot of Rambo Last Blood being what it was about. So it wasn't a Trump era thing. It wasn't done for that reason, and it have been written long before even that. So people read into these things something that isn't there a lot of the time. We'll see with the Bond franchise what they do with it. Luckily, and I've said this many times in videos before, they didn't go there with No Time to Die. You can see that there were some, like, they were starting to go off on that road, but they were kind of reined in. Such as the Lashana Lynch character being the new 007. I think they were going to try to give it a bit more of a message. It's her turn, not Lashana Lynch. Womankind, it's her turn to be the new 007 and not be abusive like you men. That kind of
So
garbage.
that's the stupid part of it. It's like, yeah, you're basically saying like we need to get rid of like the like negative stereotype of like the really boring character of like the woman who's just there to be saved by the man and all this. Like, okay, fine, but what have you replaced it with? The boring and now very cliche kind of like thing of like she's really strong and independent and doesn't need no man. Well,
Yeah.
that's just as boring as what you said needed to be replaced. And
Yeah.
honestly, kind of as damaging because like nobody should be a fucking island unto themselves. Like, if you're that big a dick, you can't get on with anybody. That's not something to like cherish and like
Yeah.
like pedestalize.
Yeah, and luckily the Lashana Lynch character in No Time to Die was pretty well represented by the way that it was edited together. And I thought she was a pretty good character, and I thought she had some pretty good moments as well. And she had a redeeming quality towards her at the end, where she basically validates James Bond as 007 because that's who the character is. You don't just put any old character in, otherwise you've got the same dynamic you had with Jeremy Renner in the Bourne legacy. It's like, no, we want Jason Bourne, played by Matt Damon. I love Jeremy Renner. He's a great actor. His character was pretty good, but he wasn't Matt Damon, Jason Bourne. make your own goddamn franchise with that character. So, you know, you can throw in other elements like the racial thing. We'll have a black person and we can race bait. But you get, again, it's just bullshit when they do that.
Like I
So,
say, nothing is turning me off on a fucking trailer more. And it's not, like I say, it's not even because they're like, oh, you just don't like liberal benefits. Like, no, I just know it's going to be shit.
what's
Like,
that?
that's the thing. It just might as well have a label on it saying, no, this film will be shit. We've got nothing else worth talking about, so we're going to be talking about like intersectionality and stuff.
You just mean generally, I think. You're not talking about
no, just films in general. It's like I say, you can just fucking tell. It's like, right, you've got nothing good to talk about, so you've just shoved all this shit in, and hoping it's going to be quote unquote important because it's got quote unquote the message. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I mean that's one good thing. If the thing was true about Henry Cavill, which I don't believe for a second that it is, but if it was, he's quite loyal to source material when he's involved in a project. And I think if they were to go down that route with James Bond, if he did get that gig, pretty sure he'd step away.
Like I said, that is almost certainly why he like left. Which people saying, oh, it's because he got Superman. It's like the timeline doesn't quite add up on that like perfectly. And to be honest, unless like Netflix or somebody being absolute dicks, he could have done both. There was no like, oh, he has to do one or the other. It's like, well, he was doing them both at one point, so why would it change now? Like, no, it's probably just he got sick of it. Was like, you know what? I'm not like sinking my career to this fucking thing.
Yeah. Well, we'll see anyway. I'll wrap this up. So this is probably going to be the last video of the year. I don't see how I'm going to squeeze any more in by the end of the year. So happy New Year to everybody that's watching for 2023. And we're going to continue to do some more videos throughout the year. This same kind of thing, really. Any final messages from the core?
Oh!
Yeah.
That wasn't really a message, was it? That was more of a sound, but never mind.
That was a Topher message for the Buff. We did see Buff on Christmas Eve as well. So thanks for
proof of life.
We have proof of life. Thanks for gracing us with your presence, Buff. And we'll see you next Christmas Eve, I'm sure. So yeah, right. Well, on that note, Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you all have a good Christmas. And we will see you next year.
Yes.
Here we go. The Buff and the Topher. The last time Buff and the Topher in the same shot. It didn't end well for the Buff.